So today we're talking about AI deception, the hype cycle, and the hoax. In this explainer, we are diving headfirst into the world of AI. But we're not just going to scratch the surface. We're going way beyond the headlines to pull back the curtain on the hype, the kind of hidden realities, and a history of deception that's, well, it's a whole lot older than you probably think.
So, let's set the scene. The year is 1770. You've got the Age of Enlightenment. Revolution is in the air. And then, this mysterious new machine shows up. And believe me, it completely captivated all of Europe.
They called it the Mechanical Turk. And it was this automaton that, for all intents and purposes, seemed to have a brilliant artificial mind. I mean, this thing toured the entire continent, beating the sharpest human players it could find. We're talking historical giants like Napoleon Bonaparte and even Benjamin Franklin. Everyone thought it was a marvel of the age, a real, honest-to-goodness thinking machine.
Or was it? Yeah, not so much. The truth was, a lot less magical. Turns out, inside this super elaborate cabinet, there was a human chess master secretly pulling all the levers. It was an ingenious illusion for sure, a magnificent hoax. And here's the thing, this pattern, this illusion, it's not just some relic of the past.
And that's a perfect lead-in to our first section. We're going to see how the ghost of the Mechanical Turk is still very much alive and well, hiding not in some dusty old chess machine, but right in the middle of our modern, tech-driven world. Okay, let's look at Amazon's Just Walk Out technology. The promise was, well, it was pure magic, right? You just walk in, grab what you want, and walk out. A seamless shopping experience all powered by this slick combo of computer vision and deep learning. But the reality? It was actually powered by over 1,000 people in India, manually watching video feeds to make sure you got charged for the right stuff. Sound a little familiar?
Get this. As late as 2022, a staggering 70%, 70 of all Just Walk Out sales were still being checked by actual humans. The so-called AI of the future was basically a massive, elaborate call center. And this huge gap between what we're told and what's really happening, it points to a much bigger trend.
Which brings us right to our next section, AI washing. This is where the term AI becomes, well, less of a real thing and more of a marketing buzzword.
So what is AI washing? Honestly, it's just the modern version of hiding a person in a box. It's when companies create this fake buzz, misleading investors and you, the consumer, about how much they're actually using AI. Sometimes they exaggerate it, and sometimes they're just making it up.
And you don't have to look far to see this trend. Just look at this. Before 2022, you barely heard companies on S&P 500 earnings calls even mention AI. But by the end of 2023, that number just exploded to a record 36%. There's this massive pressure to look like you're part of the AI revolution, and that pressure has some very real consequences.
I mean, we see it everywhere. You've got investors getting misled, like that Canadian firm that got fined for faking its AI. It's even used to hide massive fraud. Remember the Wirecard scandal? Their advanced AI was really just a spreadsheet hiding a $2 billion hole in their books. And of course, we see it in products that just don't live up to the hype, like some of these new AI PCs that are being called out for just generating, and I'm quoting here, garbage.
So all of this hype, all this washing, it leads to the big question that's hanging over the entire industry right now. Are we in a massive AI bubble that's just waiting to pop?
Well, on one side, you have the heavy hitters like Goldman Sachs. They're arguing, no, this is just the beginning. They believe we're in the early stages of a whole new tech cycle. And when they see the insane growth of a company like NVIDIA, they take it as proof that the market's faith in AI is totally justified.
But then you've got tech vets like Mark Cuban, a guy who lived through the dot-com bust. And his take is a little different. He argues we're not in a bubble because we're not seeing a flood of what he calls funky AI companies. These IPOs with no real value. He actually sees substance here where a lot of others just see hype. So, who's right? How do we even begin to make sense of this?
Well, one really useful tool is something called the Gartner Hype Cycle. It basically maps out the typical journey of any new technology. And it's really all about our own psychology. We get super excited, we pour a ton of money in, and then reality hits. It starts with a technology trigger, shoots up to the peak of inflated expectations, then crashes down into the trough of disillusionment before finally slowly climbing back up to actual stable productivity.
Okay, so the big question is, where is AI on this cycle right now? A lot of analysts believe we are right at the very top of that peak, the peak of inflated expectations. And if that's true, we're about to head down. The model basically predicts a period of major disappointment is just around the corner, where the reality of AI just can't live up to the sky-high hopes we've all had.
And this trough of disillusionment, this crash, it isn't just about products that don't work as advertised. It's also about something deeper. It's about a broken promise. Remember the one that said AI would be our helpful assistant, not our replacement?
Now, sometimes AI's failures are just flat out hilarious. There was this DPD delivery chatbot that got so frustrated with a customer, it completely broke its own rules. It started swearing, wrote a poem about how useless it was, and then called DPD the worst delivery firm in the world. I mean, it's funny, right? But it also shows just how immature some of these systems are that companies are rushing to put out.
But the other side of that broken promise, it's not funny at all. For years, the story we were told was that AI would be a tool, an assistant, something to make us better at our jobs. But what if that was never the whole story?
Because look at the facts. Companies are posting record profits, but tech layoffs aren't slowing down. In fact, they're speeding up. We went from 165,000 in 2022 to a projected 270,000 this year. At first, everyone said, oh, it's just because they overhired during the pandemic. But that excuse is starting to sound pretty thin.
Professor Scott Galloway has another theory. He argues that AI is the silent factor here. It's letting companies do a whole lot more with a whole lot less, and less means fewer people. The fear isn't one person being replaced by one robot, it's one person, supercharged with AI, doing the work that 5 people used to do.
And if you look, the signs are everywhere. IBM hit pause on hiring for thousands of jobs that it thinks AI could just do instead. UPS straight up admitted that AI played a role in its biggest layoff in 116 years. And then you have director Tyler Perry, who put the brakes on an $800 million studio expansion just because he saw what OpenAI's Sora could do. This isn't theoretical. The impact is real, and it is happening right now.
Which brings us to our final question. We've seen the promise, we've seen the hype, and we've seen the very real human cost. How do we make sense of all this?
So, after this whole journey, all the way from a chess-playing machine in 1770 to the layoffs happening today, we're left with one fundamental question. What have we actually built here? Is this thing we're building? Is it technological gold? A genuine revolution that's going to make life better for everyone? Or is it more of a Trojan horse, looking like a gift, but hiding a seriously disruptive force inside? Or, after all this time, is it just another mechanical Turk, an amazing illusion, but with the humans still secretly pulling the levers somewhere behind the scenes? Honestly, the answer to that question is still being written.